It's July 4th, 2026. Happy 250th birthday to the United States of America, our former home. If you haven't been able to tell, over my last 2 years of making videos, I'm a bit of an information geek. I'm a former newspaper reporter, librarian, and information is everything to me. Over the last year, I've been collecting all kinds of tidbits of information about Madeira, the wine, and how it related to the American Revolution. And it's really fascinating stuff. So fascinating, in fact, that I decided, hey, in celebration of 250th year of America's inception, I'm going to do a whole video on the 5 most interesting facts about Madeira and the American Revolution. Bonus: each of these facts is about a different famous founding father. But before we do, let's talk about Madeira wine and what makes it special compared to maybe your ordinary French, Italian, or even Portuguese wine. For one thing, Madeira is not a traditional wine. It is a fortified wine, meaning that grape brandy has been added to the wine during the fermentation process to more or less stop it in its tracks. This was a crucial step for the long sea voyages taken hundreds of years ago, where traditional wine could spoil by the time it got across the ocean. Makers of port up on the Portugal mainland also fortified their wine with brandy, but the port aging process required cool and calm conditions in Douro Valley cellars to fully develop the flavor of the spirit. In contrast, exporters found that the flavor of Madeira improved in the heat and under turbulent conditions, which made it an ideal wine to place in the stiflingly hot and anything but calm holds of ships heading out to sea. There was another crucial factor that made Madeira particularly attractive to the new American colonies. The island of Madeira was classified as being in Africa by the British authorities, meaning that the wine did not have to be shipped through London and be under extra legal scrutiny, but it could be directly shipped to the colonies. In fact, many ships heading to the colonies in the southern United States would stop in Madeira before crossing the Atlantic. One of them was the Anne, which was carrying James Oglethorpe and the other first settlers of the Georgia colony in 1733. Later that year, after a yellow fever epidemic had killed the colony's only doctor and was threatening to wipe out its other settlers, a ship carrying 42 Jews escaping persecution arrived in Savannah, including my 8th grandfather, Dr. Samuel Nunez, a former Portuguese court physician who quickly stopped the epidemic. Before the Boston Tea Party in 1773, or even the Boston Massacre in 1770, another event got the spark of revolution going in that city. Back in 1768, the Liberty, a ship owned by John Hancock, yes, that John Hancock, arrived in Boston with a small shipment of Madeira. Suspecting Hancock was smuggling contraband to avoid customs duties, the British seized his ship, which caused crowds to riot and hold British customs officials hostage. At the subsequent trial, Hancock and other defendants were successfully defended by an obscure 32-year-old country lawyer named John Adams. No founding father loved Madeira more than George Washington. He drank it at every meal, traded directly with the island to ensure he always had a plentiful supply, and not surprisingly, he used it to toast his 1789 presidential inauguration. So why was Washington so fond of Madeira? Historians speculate that the wine helped soothe his chronic dental pain in a quite exquisite manner. Ben Franklin, perhaps everybody's favorite founding grandfather. A scientist who once revived flies who were drowning in a friend's Madeira bottle, Ben was also quite the diplomat, both abroad and at home. In one frequently told story, Franklin plied New York Governor George Clinton with Madeira to persuade him to turn his back on the British crown. A great statesman, a president for the ages, and even an astounding architect, Thomas Jefferson was a lot of these things, but he was not a great businessman, and he often spent beyond his means. One of his weaknesses? Wine. He had an incredibly well-stocked cellar at Monticello. Though he later developed a taste for French wines thanks to his stint in Paris, he never fully outgrew his early obsession with Madeira. In fact, many believe it was Jefferson who ordered the Madeira used to toast the Declaration of Independence in 1776. After he died on July 4, 1826, his famous Charlottesville home had to be sold off to pay his debts. It eventually ended up in the hands of my uncle, Uriah P. Levy, the great-great-grandson of the Portuguese physician Samuel Nunes. While in France during the 1830s, America's first Jewish naval officer and longtime Jefferson admirer met with an elderly Marquis de Lafayette, who inquired about the status of an old friend Jefferson's magnificent home. Levy subsequently bought Monticello, and it remained in my family's hands for 90 years. Another Madeira connoisseur was James Madison, who wrote both the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Madison was so into the wine that he would spend time crafting his own blends of Madeira from the various bottles he owned. During the War of 1812, while Madison was president, British troops entered the White House and burned it down. Among the losses was the White House wine cellar, which at the time held a fairly large stash of Madeira. After the war ended, the American consul to Madeira personally visited Madison at the White House to replenish his supply. Remember those 1796 bottles of Madeira found in a New Jersey mansion? Well, guess who stayed at that mansion during the Revolutionary War? Though to be fair, he reportedly preferred coffee over Madeira. Well, all the founding fathers can't be right all the time, especially about our magical island's most famous export.